So as we enter week 5 of this 2023 NFL season, it looks like on paper, we're going to get another case of the Fuglies. What are the Fuglies? Well, it's this slate of games that are going to look freaking ugly for the third straight week. In other words, more blowouts, more sloppiness, you name it. But any given Sunday, any given Thursday, any given Monday, whenever these games are played. So that being said, before we actually talk about the games that are to be played this coming week, there are some teams that are going to be the first set of going bye-bye for 1 week. They're getting their one last vacation before they hit their stretch for the rest of the season. So these teams that are going on bye-bye for 1 week are the Cleveland Browns, the the Chargers, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Tampa Bay Bucks. So they're getting their very early bye week before they get no more rest, pretty much, for the rest of the season, aka 2 more months, pretty much. So anyway, let's look at the week that is to come in week 5, which kicked things off on Thursday Night Football, only on Prime Video, as we kicked off the potential fugliness with some Bears football and the Washington commanding football, as Justin Fields and the Bears jumped out to a 27-3 halftime lead. And, despite Washington clawing back to make it a 30-20 game in the fourth quarter, DJ Moore, the receiver for Chicago, sealed it with his third touchdown catch from Justin Fields late in the fourth quarter to beat the Commanders 40-20. Now looking at the Sunday slate of games, in the early morning portion, the first game in London, mate, the Jacksonville Jaguars, still in London, are going to be the designated visiting team as they take on the new host team, the Buffalo Bills. So the Jaguars at 2-1, they beat the Falcons in Andy's Toy Room. Yes, that little, Toy Story Fun Day Sunday game, 23-7. Now they be visiting the Buffalo Bills in London, who defeated the Dolphins 48-28, as the Bills look to continue that hot streak of offense that they had following their statement win over Miami. And for the Jaguars, they are getting some offensive line help with the return of Cam Robinson from suspension, and the Bills might actually be getting some help in the pass rush if Von Miller, who was recovering from that torn ACL a little over a year ago, he might be ready to go. It all depends if he can clear practices and if the Bills deem him healthy enough. But even without him, I think the Bills will get this win in London. Then we have the Houston Texans taking on the Atlanta Falcons, both teams at 2-2. The Texans blew out the Steelers 30-6. CJ Stroud continuing to impress, despite some offensive line injuries, a lot of shakeup there. The Falcons, though, Desmond Ridder and them really struggling hard these last couple of weeks as they were decimated by the all-elite Jaguars in London. So I'm going to roll with the Texans here. The Carolina Panthers, the only remaining winless team now that the Bears have won, take on the Detroit Lions at 3-1. The Panthers lost to the Vikings back in week 4. Meanwhile, for the Lions, they kicked off week 4 by demolishing the Packers 34-20, regardless of what you thought of the score. But Carolina, though, they really need a jolt pretty much everywhere you look, because, Bryce Young is clearly having growing pains. So you got to find some jolt somewhere, whether it be in the running game or trying to maybe have Bryce Young settle for checkdowns or whatnot, or maybe somewhere in the defense. But either way, they need something going. Meanwhile, for the Lions, they're potentially maybe getting back, whether he's ready to go or maybe not. But either way, they're getting back receiver Jameson Williams after his initial 6-game suspension was reduced to a 4-game suspension. And now that it's been 4 games, technically, he's back from that suspension. So they may activate him for this game against Carolina. And that Lions offense suddenly looking kind of stacked now. So even without him, I'm still going with the Lions here. The Tennessee Titans at 2-2 take on the Indianapolis Colts at 1-3. The Titans bounced back from a bad loss in Cleveland to take down the Cincinnati Bengals 27-3. Meanwhile, the Colts battled back against the LA Rams, but unfortunately came up a little bit short in overtime, 29-23. But the Colts and Anthony Richardson, it looks like they're finally settling in some, but just not resulting in much production, a little bit of not too much wins. So they're looking to finally get that first home win after coming up just short. Meanwhile, for the Titans, they're searching for a little bit more consistency because 1 week on offense, they'll look good against someone like the Chargers, but then they'll look absolutely horrid against someone like the Skid Marks. So I think they'll get it. They might get it done here in a close one against the Colts, so I'll go with them. The New York Giants at 1-3 take a trip down to South Beach to take on the 3-1 Miami Dolphins, as the Giants were looking to really bounce back against the Dolphins because, yeah, they got massacred by Seattle 28-3, and there's a lot of problems that go beyond Daniel Jones at this point for Big Blue. Meanwhile, for Miami, they're in need of their own bounce back after their offense was shut down by Josh Allen, the Bills. So, yeah, they need some kind of bounce back, and I think they'll get it. They'll easily get it here. So, yeah, I'm going with Miami. The New Orleans Saints at 2-2 take on the 1-3 New England Patriots. Both teams had some pretty bad losses the week prior, as the Saints lost to the Bucs 26-9, mainly because, yeah, Derek Carr couldn't really do anything at less than even 50%, because I don't know why the Saints decided to have him play with the AC sprain in his shoulder. So it looked like it was pretty much affecting him. So I'm not sure why he went with Jameis Winston or even have Taysom Hill start. I don't know why. Maybe Derek Carr is willing to play through that. I don't know. But either way, for the Patriots, they're looking really bad on offense, especially against a defense like Dallas. I mean, yeah, their defense, yeah, it's pretty good. But even against middling defenses like the Jets and whatnot, Mac Jones is, I don't know what's going on with him, man. But either way, it seems like he could officially be on borrowed time if he doesn't show any sort of improvement, like anything positive under offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien, or let alone Bill Belichick. So Bill Belichick desperately needs to find something positive for his team. Unfortunately, he might not find it here at home. Oh, I'm going with the Saints. The Baltimore Ravens at 3-1 take on the 1-3 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Ravens blew out the Deshaun Watson-less Cleveland Browns 28-3 on the road. So the Ravens actually have a chance to go up 3-0 in the AFC North, like a quarter way through the season, if they beat the Steelers here. Meanwhile, for the Steelers, they're in real desperate need to try and get a win here, as they were blown out by the Houston Texans 30-6. The problem is, they don't know if Kenny Pickett is gonna start this game. Kenny Pickett says he will, despite having that knee issue that he suffered in week 4. But if he can't go, I think their backup quarterback still Mitch Trubisky, yeah, the original MVP. So if Kenny Pickett can't go, expect Mitch Trubisky to be the starter. But for the Ravens, yeah, a big opportunity for them to go up 3-0 like very early in the season. So I expect them to do such. So I'm going with Baltimore here. Going to the afternoon slate of games, the Cincinnati Bengals at 1-3 taking on the also 1-3 Arizona Cardinals. The Bengals, though, they're not looking real hot right now. I know Joe Burrow is hurt and all, but there's a litany of problems. The offensive line can't protect them. I don't know. I know there's a lot of problems on offense, but their defense, I guess those losses in the secondary are really affecting them. So they got smashed by the Titans 27-3, and if they somehow can't beat Arizona here, they're in a world of hurt. If they're going to try to get a playoff spot. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, they put up a fight against my 49ers, but unfortunately, they just couldn't keep up. But they're still playing tough as nails despite a 1-3 record. So, even though despite that record, there are some things, encouraging signs for them. And hell, I'll throw a little dart at the wall and pick the Cardinals because why not? Then we have one of the silver linings for week 5 in this kind of fugly week. The Philadelphia Eagles at 4-0 take on the LA Rams at 2-2. The Eagles barely by the teeth of their skin outlasted the Washington Commanders in overtime. Yes, it had to take overtime to beat Washington. Meanwhile, for the Rams, they also had to grind out an overtime win against the Indianapolis Colts, 29-23. But for Philadelphia, the reason why they had to get to overtime is because, well, their secondary couldn't really really shut down the Washington offense. And it seems like, even though they signed, like, I think it was corner Bradley Roby or someone, it's having a lot of issues lately. Trying to, like, go man to man and trying to shut down all these opposing receivers. So it's starting to become a little bit, like, not too much, but a little bit of a weak link there. Meanwhile, for the Rams, they just activated top receiver Cooper Kupp off injured reserve. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to, like, go right away. Like, maybe not, I'm not sure if they will have him go into this coming game against Philadelphia. But if they do, that could be a huge boost for their offense. I'm not sure if it'll be enough to go toe-to-toe with the Eagles. So I'm going to play the safe bet here and go with Philadelphia. The New York Jets at 1-3 take on the also 1-3 Denver Broncos, who got their first win in a comeback against the Chicago Bears, 31-28 in Week 4. Meanwhile, the Jets fell just a tad short against the Kansas City Chiefs, 23-20 in Sunday Night Football. For the Jets, they're hoping that Zach Wilson can carry over his good play from the week prior, because that was probably his best career game, and under the bright lights of Sunday night. And they're hoping he can at least try to carry that over on the road against Denver. Meanwhile, for Russell Wilson, the Broncos, on the opposite end, they really need a better defensive performance, considering that they also released Randy Gregory on the defensive front. So good luck with that. I mean, I'm still picking Denver here, but I mean, don't be surprised if the Jets pull off an upset. The Kansas City Chiefs at 3-1 take on the 1-3 Minnesota Vikings. As I said, the Chiefs beat the Jets 23-20. The Vikings got their first win of the season over the Carolina Panthers. I expect this game to be kind of ugly. I really don't expect anything for the Vikings, because, well, they got into a situation that they could have gotten worse for them, because turnovers once again in the red zone for Kirk Cousins. And if they want to have a chance against Kansas City and try to keep up with Patrick Mahomes, they got to cut down on those turnovers on offense. Like, they really got to. Meanwhile, for the Chiefs, sure, they're finding ways to win, but they need to get sustainable help from their receiving core that's not named Travis Kelce. So even though I'm still picking the Chiefs here, there's still ways to go for them if they want to maintain, like, their hold in as Super Bowl contenders. I mean, they're still Super Bowl contenders, but yeah, I would like to see them, like, get some consistent help from guys that are not named Kelce. Then the Sunday Night Football game for week number 5. It's probably one of the bigger ones, one of the bigger games early in the season, and that is the Dallas Cowboys at 3-1 taking on my San Francisco 49ers at 4-0. I'm going to talk more about this game in my little dedicated preview to this 49ers game. So for this case, the Cowboys blew out the Patriots 38-3. Meanwhile, for my 49ers, as I mentioned, they beat the Cardinals 35-16. For both of these teams, it's a big test. They're going to be put to the test on both sides of the ball. It's a rematch of their past two playoff matchups, especially considering that they're talking so much about how they last met just several months ago in January in the divisional playoffs. So it's going to put the 49ers' red-hot offense led by Brock Purdy up against the Cowboys' red-hot defense led by Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Lane Vander Esch, all those guys. So this could be an early prelude to the playoffs and could determine playoff seeding, like, very early in the season. So I think I'm picking the 49ers, but this could be a big matchup, like, very early in the season. Then in the Monday Night Football game to close out week number 5, the Green Bay Packers at 2-2 take on the Las Vegas Raiders at 1-3. Both teams in big need of a win here. The Packers, they got whacked at home by the Lions, and the Raiders lost to the Chargers 24-17. Now, albeit without Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing in this game, but even then, it looked like there was a little bit of a jolt with Aiden O'Connell in there, but whoever's going to be under center, the offensive line has to do a lot better protecting their quarterback. Meanwhile, for the Packers, they got to put on a much better complete performance after they had to come back in their last, a quarter and a fourth of their games, because, yeah, there's some flashes with Jordan Love, but it's like, you got to have a little bit more complete performance from that guy. So I'm taking the Packers to win this one because the Raiders' offensive line and their secondary is meh. It is kind of a very mixed bag. So I'm gonna pick the Packers to find a way to pull out the win. So those are my picks for week number 5 of this 2023 NFL season. Let me know your own picks, your own takes on, well, these games that are kind of gonna be a little for another week, but it is what it is. But yeah, football is unpredictable that in some senses or whatnot. But yeah, let me know your picks. Let me know who you're going with in the comments below, and I'd like to know why you're going with them. So this is DylanLasagna signing out of another preview for this NFL season. And until next time, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And peace out.